So you've probably heard about the Next.js app router, right? It was pitched as this game changer, a totally new, faster way to build web apps. But as a lot of people found out, this big revolution came with some serious growing pains. To really get what's going on, we need to rewind a bit and look at why everyone was so hyped in the first place. And man, the excitement was real. You could feel it everywhere. The technology at the heart of it all, React Server Components, or RSCs for short, it felt like a genuine next big thing. The buzz was that we were turning a corner, A better way to build for the web was finally here, and it seemed like all the little kinks had been worked out. Okay, so to really get the app router, we've got to pop the hood and look at the engine inside. And that engine is React Server Components. I want to be super clear here. This isn't just another update. It's a complete shift in how we think about and use React. The big idea, the absolute core concept, is that these components run only on the server. Think about that for a second. The code you write for them, it never, ever gets sent to the user's browser. It does all its heavy lifting, like, say, talking to a database, and then just sends down the finished HTML. So what's the payoff? A way lighter, way faster experience for your users. Simple as that. But you might be asking, why? Why go through all this hassle? I mean, why completely rethink how we build React apps from the ground up? Well, it all boils down to tackling some really old, really stubborn problems with web performance and just overall complexity. So the new model draws a really clear line in the sand. By default, every component you make is now a server component. It lives on the server. But what if you need interactivity? Things like use state, use effect, anything that has to happen in the browser. That's where you add a little tag at the top of your file. Use client. That's the magic word. It's the boundary that tells Next.js, hey, this component and anything it uses, yeah, that's got to be bundled up and sent over to the client. And on paper, this was a dream come true. The promises were huge. We're talking pages that load in a blink of an eye because they're just simple HTML. Tiny JavaScript bundles, since most of your code stays on the server. Way better security, because your secret keys and database connections are never exposed to the public. And, to top it all off, a much simpler way to get your data. You could just await it right there in your component. It sounded absolutely perfect. Yeah, but the reality wasn't quite so smooth. As tons of developers started jumping on board and using the app router for real projects, some really nasty, frustrating problems started popping up. This is where the promise started to clash with let's call it the peril of using it in the wild. And that led everyone to ask the big question, was it worth it? Were all these amazing benefits worth the new and sometimes really severe problems that came along for the ride? And then this number hit the news. CVSS 10.0. Now, if you're not familiar with that, let me just say it doesn't get any worse. That is the highest possible severity score for a security vulnerability. It's basically the digital world's equivalent of a full-blown 5-alarm fire. So what did this thing actually do? Well, it let an attacker, anyone from anywhere with no login, no special access, run whatever code they wanted, right on the server. And this wasn't some weird, obscure bug you'd never hit. No, it was in the default configuration. It meant millions of websites were potentially wide open. But it wasn't just security either. Developers started noticing that things were slow, like really slow. This quote I saw on GitHub just perfectly captures the mood. The new app router, the one that was supposed to make everything faster, was taking almost twice as long as the old Pages router just to send the first byte of data. It was, extremely disappointing is a good way to put it. So here we are. This is the new landscape. A super powerful architecture, but one that's also really complex and comes with some serious risks. So the question for all of us is, how do we deal with this? How do we actually use this thing to get all the good stuff while dodging the bullets? And what's interesting is that these problems aren't just random bad luck. This diagram here shows it perfectly. It's part of a bigger cycle. See, as projects get bigger, they can get caught in this downward spiral. A little bit of poor planning creates weird dependencies. Those cause errors when you try to put things together, your code quality drops, and that just makes it even harder to plan the next step. The headaches with the app router, they're really just a symptom of this much bigger issue of modern software complexity. And you can see the whole industry trying to fight this complexity. Just look at the results from the State of JavaScript survey. Check out the huge jump in people using monorepo tools like PNPM, NX, and TurboRepo. It tells a really clear story. As our projects get more complicated, we need stronger, smarter tools just to keep everything from falling apart.
What this all means is that picking your build system is more important than ever. If you've got a smaller project, yeah, maybe simple workspaces are fine. But once you start to scale up, you're going to need the smart caching that tools like NX or TurboRepo give you. And if you're working on something truly massive, a huge enterprise system, you might even have to reach for a beast like Basel, which can handle things down to the individual file level and run builds across multiple machines. And when it comes to security, we have to be proactive. It's not enough anymore to just wait for a patch. We have to build our apps with layers of defense from the start. We're talking solid authentication, using libraries like Next.js, protecting our pages with middleware, locking down our API routes on the server, and adding extra protection with things like security headers.
So when you step back and look at the whole picture, it's pretty clear that the app router isn't just some new feature. It's way bigger than that. It's a fundamental trade-off, and it really signals a whole new way of thinking about how we build for the web. This quote here from dzone just nails it. With things like server components and server actions, React isn't just a UI library anymore, not by a long shot. It's now doing jobs that, until very recently, were strictly back-end territory. And that, right there, is the heart of the trade-off. The app router hands developers an incredible amount of power. Power to fine-tune performance, to make data fetching feel effortless, but that power has a price. It requires a much, much deeper understanding of both the client and the server, and crucially, how the two talk to each other. Which leaves us with one last big question to chew on. As our front-end frameworks start to act more and more like full-stack frameworks, blurring that line between client and server, what are we losing in the process? Are we trading the old, simple world of clear boundaries for this new, powerful, integrated model? And is it possible that this new power is a lot more fragile than we realize?